This is TWiT. Then they get to the iPad Air. These are things we expected. It's got 5G in it. It's got an M1 processor in it. Now, that's interesting. Not an A15, but an M1. Yeah. Now, it's the same, and Renee would tell you it's the same. But what I thought was intriguing, and I'm curious what you think, is this is really starting to verge on the iPad Pro. Same design.
Yeah.
Same processor, 8-core M1. It's got USB-C. They have a smart keyboard for it. Starts at $599, so it's a great price. How do we make the distinction? Or maybe we're going to see a Pro leap forward? What's going to happen here? Yeah. I don't know why you'd buy the Pro now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at the specs just to make sure that I'm clear on things. The biggest difference is that you don't get Thunderbolt on the Air. That Thunderbolt is now only on the iPad Pro, and it's a very, very tight comparison between the 10.9-inch Pro and the 11-inch Air, because even if external displays are still not a problem, because you can still connect DisplayPort through USB-C on the iPad Air, you lose higher capacity storage, you lose one camera, I think. But in terms of someone who wants a a mid-range iPad laptop that doesn't necessarily want a 12.9-inch display, it really is the difference between how do you define yourself as a pro, and if you can dissuade yourself of needing Thunderbolt or 512 gigs of storage. It seems as though you want to save that money and get the get the Magic Keyboard instead.
It's a similar display, but not exactly the same as on the Pro. It's P3 True Tone, a little bit less bright.
Right, but it's not like micro LED. Excuse me. But
it's not mini LED. Yeah,
it's not as though the Pro is a mini LED. So you're not getting the other reason for going for the 12.9 when I bought mine was that I want that better display.
Right.
So there's still you're not necessarily kicking yourself that hard for getting a Pro 12.9 if you wanted the M1 chip.
It does have the front-facing 12-megapixel camera now. Everything has that centering,
center stage,
center stage where it moves around with you. Even the new monitor has that, which is I thought was kind of interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to really look if you want to get an iPad Pro at why you're spending the extra money, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge cost difference between 500 nits and I think it's 1600 nits on the other display. So they are definitely saving some money there as far as that goes. But I think that it's a very usable Mac. I mean, if I was a school, again, March tends to be a kind of a nod towards last purchases that schools might do. It's not a bad iPad to use. Yeah. If you're thinking about iPads, if you're thinking in that direction.
Actually, honestly, this could even be a college. I put laptop in quotes, but this is a very capable system.
Very solid.
Yeah, and then M1's fast.
Yeah, they were explicit saying faster than the fastest competitive Windows tablet, up to 2 times faster than the fastest Windows laptop in its price range. So yeah, that's where they're going for.
It also is a flex on Apple Silicon now, M1 everywhere, right? And so this is what's really going to be interesting is just consistent improvement in processors.
Well, consistent and very leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds.
With everything, they're starting to really flex. And again, we saw this when the M1 came out. Like when they announced that they were going to have a new chip. A lot of us were like, we should buy a bunch of Intel machines right before they screw this up for the next year or two. And the first M1 came out, and nobody I know, like everyone's like, no more Intel. Like, we're not going to buy any more of this because you could just see what was going to happen. It was like when the M1 came out, I was like, if that's version 1, this is going to get really interesting. And then as we keep on seeing the level of performance change between updates, and it's only been a year and a half, right, since the first time we saw an M1. It's going to be a really hard pace to keep up with because it's all integrated, because they're not working with outside folks. They don't have to figure out how to get this chip to talk to that chip. They don't have to deal with buses. They can design whatever they want. Really changes the playing field a lot.
It's just damn exciting. That's all I can say.